We have another pro football update. I'm John Kuzma from the Cross the Middle Show. We're going to dive into the DeAndre Hopkins situation today and find out which team would be the best fit for DeAndre Hopkins. So the three teams that stand out when it comes to DeAndre Hopkins are the Cleveland Browns, the Tennessee Titans, and the New England Patriots. DeAndre Hopkins actually met with the Tennessee Titans today. What's good about going with the Titans, if you're DeAndre Hopkins, is you're in a weak division. You're going against the Texans, Jaguars, and Colts. That's a little bit easier division than, say, the AFC East, where you would go against the Bills, the Dolphins, and Aaron Rodgers and the Jets. So that's one reason the Tennessee Titans might be a good option for DeAndre Hopkins. You're in the AFC South. It's one of the easier divisions. Yeah, Trevor Lawrence is starting to take over, but those teams are a lot easier than going to the AFC East and being in a slugfest every single divisional game, or in every game that's in the division, I should say. So we'll see. We'll see what he does. The other option, obviously, the New England Patriots. He played with Bill O'Brien when Bill O'Brien was the head coach of the Texans. Bill O'Brien is now the offensive coordinator of the Patriots. So one good thing about that is DeAndre Hopkins played some of his best football with Bill O'Brien. So I know they don't have a great relationship, but sometimes it's like maybe we don't like each other that much, but when we, perform together, we make miracles happen. And that's kind of the situation with DeAndre Hopkins and Bill O'Brien. They had a little bit of a fallout. Bill O'Brien actually traded DeAndre Hopkins. Don't forget about that. So there's got to be a little bit of bad blood there. At the same time, though, when they worked together, DeAndre Hopkins was on fire. I think he was a 3-time All-Pro when he was with the Texans at the top of his game. So to go to an offense you already know about, maybe say, hey, I know we had a bad relationship in the past, but it's water under the bridge at this point. That's something that might be an option for DeAndre Hopkins just because he's ready to move forward, find his next team, and ultimately because he has so much respect for Bill Belichick that he would put his pride aside and be open to working with Bill O'Brien again. Then there's Deshaun Watson. Obviously, Deshaun Watson and DeAndre Hopkins were very good when they played with each other with the Houston Texans. Those guys were just on the same page from the get-go. And anytime Deshaun Watson was in a situation where he had to throw one up, he was throwing one up to DeAndre Hopkins, and Hopkins was just bringing it down every single time, like to the point where they were one of the best quarterback and wide receiver tandems in the league. There's no doubt about that. They were a playoff team so many times when those two guys worked together. So if Deshaun Watson and DeAndre Hopkins link up with the Cleveland Browns, and it sounds like DeAndre Hopkins would have to take a little bit of a pay cut to do that, but at the same time, wow, that Browns offense would be really something because they have Amari Cooper on the other side. You have DeAndre Hopkins on, one's the X receiver, one's the Z receiver. Then you have Deshaun Watson throwing to those guys. I mean, if you're DeAndre Hopkins, you don't really want to take a pay cut, but at the same time, you're kind of like, you can see the potential that offense would have by having all those guys there together. It's obviously something that appeals to DeAndre Hopkins. Is he willing to get over the smaller paycheck that he would get by going to the Browns? Probably not, because the truth is in the NFL, that's your job, and you have to earn as much as you possibly can. You have to get it while the getting is good, so to say, because once your career is over, your money's not coming in anymore unless you can do something after football. Some guys can. Some guys have a harder time transitioning to life after football. So DeAndre Hopkins, he might not even know what he wants to do next, but he knows right now that he has to earn as much money as he possibly can, because now is the time to strike while the iron is hot, so to say. That's the argument for the Cleveland Browns playing in that offense, reuniting with Deshaun Watson and picking up where those two guys left off, which is obviously very appealing. Then you got the Patriots, who are looking for a savior on offense. They're desperately lacking a true number one receiver that can kind of uplift their offense to that next level. I firmly believe DeAndre Hopkins is capable of doing that. DeAndre Hopkins is a rare specimen. Let's just say that because it's very rare that a defense knows where the football is going and they still can't stop it. That's who DeAndre Hopkins is. Everybody on the field knows that the Cardinals or the Texans are going to throw it to DeAndre Hopkins, and yet DeAndre Hopkins always makes the catch, always makes the play. It's one of the most amazing things I've ever seen. Even when he came back, and played after the suspension, the guy was still commanding such a presence on the football field. He's still getting all these fades and passes that are coming his way, and he's still making the most out of them. He's still a dominant football player. And I use the word dominant for a reason. He is dominant out there. I'm telling you guys, the belief that DeAndre Hopkins is getting older and he's going to be washed up soon, I totally disagree with that. I really think DeAndre Hopkins can play at a high level for a very long time. I think he's still got 5 or 6 great years in the tank. I still think he's worth taking a risk on him. So, you look at Bill Belichick, he's a smart football guy. We all know that. He's one of the best he's the best coach of all time in the National Football League, in my eyes. So if he knows DeAndre Hopkins still has it, and he knows that DeAndre Hopkins is still a high caliber player in the National Football League, that's why the Patriots would be trying to land him right now. Otherwise, the Patriots, we all know the Patriots get rid of players too soon. That's always been their thing. They get rid of guys really soon, and they go with younger players. I mean, look what they did to Chandler Jones. They traded Chandler Jones and got him out of there while he was still ascending. He was still on his way up. He had some of his best years with the Cardinals because he was still becoming the Chandler Jones that he would be. The Patriots didn't even think twice. They shipped him out of there. They sold high on him, got as much back as they could, and somehow, were able to win Super Bowls. But, I mean, that's the type of team the Patriots are. They get rid of players earlier than they should because they want to go with, rookies and second and third round players and keep the team young with fresh legs. So the fact that Bill Belichick's willing to go after DeAndre Hopkins, who's getting older, tells you how good Hopkins really still is. Because, I mean, that guy is capable of coming in and easily being the best weapon on the Patriots. So they're ready to just roll out the red carpet and let him take over because he is still capable of carrying the torch for an NFL team. Bill Belichick knows that's going to be the case for at least 5 or 6 years. I'm right there with Bill Belichick on that one. DeAndre Hopkins, great player. The other thing we're going to talk about is Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs isn't really happy with the franchise tag that the Raiders gave him. He's now trying to hold out and get more money to the point where if the tag doesn't get signed, Josh Jacobs might end up becoming a free agent. It's crazy that it would come to this. I think the Raiders have until mid-July to work out a long-term deal with Josh Jacobs. I still think that's the best course of action for them. They can't afford to lose Josh Jacobs. I know teams are reluctant to pay the running back position, but I just think it's gotten totally out of hand. The fact that we're just kind of disrespecting the running back position, which is a glorious position, man. A position where you have to be the toughest guy on the team. You're getting hit more than anybody. You're taking so many shots. The toll it takes on your body. It's a glorious position because it's a selfless position. You're selling yourself out to give something to the team. It's wearing you down. Like I said, the toll it has on your body, it just runs you into the ground. I don't think we should just be turning our back on that position. I know why teams do it. They don't want to wrap up money in a running back who has a high probability of getting hurt. Then you're stuck with that contract. It's easy for that contract to go bad because the running back position just gets the shit kicked out of them. At the same time, though, when you have a great running back, the teams that run the ball more effectively win more games. That's a law in the sport of football. The teams that run the ball more effectively win more games. That's a law. Now, in the NFL, it's a little bit more quarterback driven than at the lower levels, but it's still a truth in the sport of football that teams that can establish the run tend to get ahead. I think the Raiders have to realize this. And they also have to realize how special of a player they have in their backfield. That's not a player you want to let walk. I don't care if running backs have a short shelf life. I don't care if that's a revolving door position where you're just getting a lot of new guys in there because you burn through them so quickly. I don't care. You got to keep Josh Jacobs just off his star power alone. I mean, last year he was the best running back in the National Football League. He was number one. Nobody was better than Josh Jacobs this past year. And the plays that he was making were flat out incredible. I mean, you're not going to find a lot of guys that can make those type of plays. Josh Jacobs was making them routinely. And the impact and the spark that he gave that Raiders team, I don't know how you can even consider letting that go. This should have been a blank check situation. Put the check down, ask him how much he wants, sign the check, and be done with it. You don't want to be having these disputes and these contract negotiations that are going down to the wire with a player like Josh Jacobs. You just want to write the check and be done with it. I don't think Josh Jacobs is the type of player you haggle with. You give him what he wants because you want to roll out the red carpet for him, so he wants to be a Raider, so he wants to stick around. You have to take care of your talent. That's how I feel about Josh Jacobs. He's talking about he wants to hold out for the other players in the league, and he wants to hold out for the position because he doesn't like how disrespected running backs are getting, so he wants to take a stand for all the other running backs out there. I mean, that's an honorable thing to do, and I think he should hold out for himself and hold out for all the other running backs. I just don't understand how the Raiders are even considering going down that path, because Josh Jacobs is a player that they have to have. If they really want to keep winning, they need Josh Jacobs. Josh McDaniels can't afford to lose Josh Jacobs because he just had a bad year that first year. If he loses Josh Jacobs, what's going to happen? I mean, we already know what the outcome is. I don't think the locker room can handle that. I think the locker room would be pissed if they let Josh Jacobs go because everyone knows how special he is, and everybody would know that, taking Josh Jacobs out of the picture would be too much of a step backwards for that team. So this is a big thing for the Raiders. They have to get this deal done. They have to get it figured out because there's too much on the line if Josh Jacobs doesn't come back. That's all I got for the Across the Middle show. I'm John Kuzma. Thanks for tuning in.